What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of the Sheehan Show here on Sherdog.com. My name is Sean Sheehan, and today I am looking ahead to the return of Bellator to these very shores, as on June 22nd, the Bellator Champions Series visits Dublin with the Bellator Welterweight Championship and a whole host of Irish fighters on the card as well. It's very interesting, the kind of card that is being laid out here, because I feel like even though there were a few injuries and a few people kind of missed out and stuff, there's less Irish than maybe what we normally would have gotten from Bellator over the last few years. But I think it's, is that more down to Bellator now being an entity that's kind of, not when they came to Ireland, it was really a great Irish event, and then they put on some of their bigger fights and stuff, but they really kind of catered to the Irish audience, whereas now they're catering to what needs to be done in Bellator, and that's not a criticism. I think that's kind of just the way it is. There's a lot of people under contract that they need to get fights done, they need to put in a position to kind of move on, to get towards the title and stuff like that, and there's a lot of fights. I think 14 fights on this, and still a few Irish fighters, of course, but as I said, not as many as usual. So it's interesting to see that, and it's interesting to see how the crowd will react to that at digs. But I think they've done a better job than had been previous, and not just Bellator, PFL, or whatever other organizations. They've put the Irish fighters up near the top, so obviously you have to have the title fight in the top slot. But it looks like Paul Hughes is the co-main event. It looks like Sinead Kavanagh is the fight after that, and it looks like Derek Kelly is right up there towards the top as well. So that makes a whole load of sense, and that's very, very smart for them to do that. A few of the people, I suppose, will be disappointed that they're not on the card. Like, obviously, Peter Queally was supposed to fight Yancy Medeiros. I think that was down as to be the co-main event, if I'm not mistaken. But obviously, there was an injury to Queally, I believe, so that didn't end up happening. So that's obviously a big blow, because Queally was, we all know the walkout. He sells a lot of tickets and everything like that, and a big blow to the card that you would absolutely want to have on if all things were equal, no doubt about that. Brian Moore as well, another guy who sells a lot of tickets. He comes up from Wexford, so Queally and Moore from the similar sort of part of the country, although differing counties, but not too far apart. And maybe miss some of that crowd, and also Kieran Clark as well, who he never, there was something with Kieran Clark. I don't know, maybe he has something on this weekend or something, but he's not on the card either, and he kind of alluded to that from fairly far out. So it's interesting to see all of the all of that, and it's interesting to see how the ticket sales are looking. Interesting to see how full, I suppose, the arena will be based on all that, because that's, I don't know who, apart from maybe the UFC, who come once a decade, really. I don't care who you are, it's very tough to sell tickets if you're missing Queally, if you're missing Brian Moore, and if you're missing Kieran Clark, and also arguably the biggest one, James Gallagher not on the card as well. So if you were to pull out 4 ticket sellers from Ireland in Bellator, if you're to look for the top 4, they'd probably the 4 of them will probably be in the top 5, maybe top 6. Obviously Paul Hughes as well is very good, and Sinead and the SBG crew always do a lot as well. So very, very interesting, and I thought I'd bring a bit maybe of the local knowledge to it before we get into the actual breakdown of the fights themselves. With Bellator the way it is now, with PFL obviously not coming back to Ireland in the at the time of recording anyway, in the near future, and it won't be until next year if they do, I think, because the European season is all set, and the finale, and obviously the global season as well. So Bellator haven't announced another show for it now. Maybe they will, or but it's a very interesting time for Irish MMA, because as we stand right now, this is the only show booked out of Bellator, PFL, UFC, and Cage Warriors. Obviously KSW, if you've been here before, and there was talks of Octagon and stuff, but none of them. So this is the only card. So after this, there'll be no major card booked in Ireland, which hasn't been the case now in a good few years. And maybe it was for a couple of weeks or a month or so at one stage, but basically for the last, since I suppose the sport has bounced back after the long hiatus following the death of Joe Carvalho, that hasn't been the case. So I think, I'll be honest, I think the crowd will be important here. If they see a big crowd, if they see a lot of people coming out, you could see Bellator bouncing right back. Maybe they've already made that decision even before that. But I think, you look at France and you look at other places, I think Ireland really needs to stand up for that as well. And it'll be interesting to see if it does, because it's a tough time for in Ireland as well. If people don't realise, like, there's a lot of, look, obviously the economy is a tough position for everyone everywhere, and as it is in Ireland, but also there's a lot of sports this year in Ireland, like the our native sports, I suppose, the GAA, hurling and football, especially the hurling, has been selling an awful lot of tickets this year. There's been an awful lot of people going. I know Katie Taylor had a fight there not too long ago, and she might have another one again. There's been a lot of stuff on, I suppose, this year that people, and there's only a certain amount of income that goes to all those things. So it's not easy for people to get out there, and sometimes they have to choose between these things. So it'll be very, very interesting to see how all that works out. And it's tough. It's very tough for Bellator, but tough for PFL caterers. The UFC would be a little bit different, I think. But it'd be interesting to keep an eye on all of that, as well as, I suppose, the side to the show that's going to be happening on Saturday night. So let's get to the fights, and let's talk a little bit about them. Let's start with the main event, and then we get to some of the Irish fighters. So Jason Jackson versus Ramazan Kuramagomedov is your main event. And as people who listen to this know, I've been a massive Jason Jackson guy for a good long while now. I think he was one of the most underrated fighters in the world for a while. Obviously, it took ages for him to get his shot in the end, but once he got it, what a performance he put on against Yaroslav Amosov. It was, I'm just looking at it here, it was July 2022 he fought Douglas Lima, and it was November 2023 before he got the shot. There was there was a story that was kind of lining up before that as well, so it did make sense, but he still had to wait for that opportunity. But what a performance to finish him as well in the third round of that fight, after being in there and beating, as I said, Lima, Paul Daly, Neiman Gracie, Vincent Henderson, Jordan Mean, and you're going back to 2019 with that, and he's only lost one fight since 2017. I never realised, actually, or maybe it's a long time since I realised he was on the Dana White Contender Series in 2017. It was season 1, episode 3. That's absolutely mad to think it's been going on that long. But what a record he has. He fought Colby Covington in his second ever fight, and it was one of his only 4 losses. 18-4 against the level of fighters he's been fighting is absolutely phenomenal. Obviously, as well, he fought Ray Cooper back in February, and that fight went into the early parts of the second round. So I'm sure he's been keeping the hand in, and is well ready to come into this one. But his opponent, Ramazan Kuramagomedov, absolutely no joke at all. 27 years of age, 12-0, 8 finishes, 4 decisions. Now, he hasn't fought near the level of a Jason Jackson, and this is a massive step up. But he's fought John Howard, who's a good guy over in Eagle. He came in and had 2 fights in Bellator and got 2 finishes there. Jaleel Willis, who is a good fighter, and Randall Wallace as well. Watching back that fight, he was very, very impressive in that. So to get to the actual fight itself, I think these 2 fighters are both very well-rounded and very, very good at everything, but both very different at the same time. I'm actually just after seeing here that Kuramagomedov fights out of Extreme Couture, which, now thinking about it, actually makes awful lot of sense because of the way he fights. I think he's I use the word well-rounded. It's hard to look at him and not see a well-rounded fighter. And I'll get to Jackson first, because I think it's maybe better to talk about Kuramagomedov off of talking about Jackson. So Jackson, he's one of those guys that is a little bit, I always talk about Leon Edwards like this as well. He does the simple things so well, right? And you look at him and go, is he the best in the world at anything? You'd probably say no. But is he bad at anything? You'd definitely say no. Is he good at everything? You'd definitely say yes. And is he verging on great? I would say yes as well, in terms of his well-roundedness, his ability to do everything, whether it's his jab or his backhand behind it or his leg kicks or his takedowns. You know, we saw it was at the Benson Henderson fight where he just put on a wrestling clinic and won that fight. We saw against, you know, we know how good Benson is as a wrestler, and he's jiu-jitsu black belt and all that. Look what he did to Amosov. You know, Amosov is well-rounded as well. He can wrestle and strike, but like broke him up on the feet, basically jabbed him around the place, hit him with his big shots. And I think he's added that to his game as well. You know, one of those guys that you look at his let me just pull up the fights here. You look at the kind of the mid part of the last 5 or 6 fights, right? So the Daly Lima fights, and you think, right, he's got to his apex now, right? That's going to be the best Jason Jackson. You're looking at, so that Daly fight was 3 years ago. It was a unanimous decision, and the Gracie fight before, and even the Henderson fight, they were all 2020, 2021 in the space, those fights in the space of 7 months, I tell you. So they're very, very close, all of those. Taken away, so Daly, Gracie, Henderson. You're thinking, okay, that's the fighter he is now. A well-rounded, good fighter, tough to beat, you know, and will win most fights. But I think he's actually taken it to the next level, especially the Amosov fight. You know, the Ray Cooper one, tougher to judge off of that, although, you know, obviously what he did to Ray Cooper is not easy to do to anyone. He turned it up really quickly in the second round as well, but that Amosov victory, like Amosov is one of the best welterweights in the world. Make no mistake about that. And what he did to him is insane, right? So there's a part of your career where you get to, and you kind of just take it. The same thing happened kind of with Sadibou C over in PFL. He was doing really well. He won one season, you know, and then the next season he comes out and it turns decisions into finishes. You know, who was the Masvidal did this a little bit in his career, like to a lesser level, I suppose. Well, although he did get to the title level, but you get what I mean. You know, decision, change, alter a few things, start finishing people, and it's not necessarily just about the finishes; it's how you look in there as well. And to me, Jason Jackson is looking better than ever. Those last 2 performances were a step up on the 2020-21 Jason Jackson by a million miles. And that is more, I think, more about just the pop, more about the confidence. He's still doing the very basic things very, very well. And you look at him, and he is a very basic fighter. And that's the that might sound like an insult if that was written down, but it's the highest of compliments. He's a fundamental is a better word. He's a fundamentally exceptional fighter. So to balance Kuramagomedov off of that, I would say he's a fundamentally very, very good fighter too. But he doesn't fight that way. So he fights, I put him as a combination now in part of his game anyway, a combination of like Perrian and Charles Oliveira in the stand up clinch break takedownish area. Now when he gets to the ground, very different. He's more of like the you know, I don't know if he's from Dagestan originally. Let me just look here. But the Dagestani type of wrestler. Indeed, he is from Dagestan. So when he gets the fight to the ground, very good on top. Actually, maybe to say the Dagestani wrestler is a bit unfair because the fights I watched him in, it was very much more, you know, the Dagestani lads love the half guard. Like Khabib was the king of the half guard. He was, because it was such a good controlling position, and Khabib would give up a side controller amount to keep half guard, which he should. Kuramagomedov, more of a guy who stays in the guard and hits you and will take chances from there, but he's more of the controlling guy. And I think because he respects guys and he's fought a lot of wrestlers as well, I think that happens here. And I think the similar sort of thing could happen to Jason Jackson. But that's more of like a controllable part of his game. And that's more of like when I say a controllable part of his game, he is more controlled in that part of his game. Let's put it that way. But for the striking, it's different. As I said, a combination of Yan and Oliveira. And what I mean by that is he throws like Oliveira on the feet hard with a more technical version maybe of Oliveira. Although Oliveira has adjusted to become more of that. But, you know, you get what I mean. Because he's happy enough for someone to try to take him down, because he knows that he'll hit... he'll hit a takedown on them basically before they hit one on him. He knows he's very hard to take down. If it does get to the ground or get to a transition, he's going to win that 9 times out of 10, or even more. So he's happy enough to do that, you know. And then for the Yan part of it, it's and this is, I suppose, is a very specific part, but because of the way he fights initially, there's a lot of clinches, and he's very good at hitting off the clinch, like Yan, like really, really, really good. And it's an unusual part of the game. You know, obviously we used to talk an awful lot about dirty boxing, but this is not so much dirty boxing where it's like a lot of combinations against the cage or anything. It's like picking that counter and just like almost catching someone cold as the fight breaks. He is exceptional at doing that, like really exceptional. He knocked down Randall Wallace doing that, and there was one of his other fights I was watching as well where he threw like this. It was kind of a check hook off the break from the other. I think it was his left hand against Wallace, and I think it was his right hand. Maybe it was a Howard fighter. I'm not sure. One of the fights I was watching anyway. He just really, really, really good at that. So how will this fight work out by putting the two of them together? Kuramagomedov is very happy to fight off the back foot and fight that counter style with the quick breaks if it gets to the clinch, but he also has quick breaks just like when he dips down. It's not just off the clinch, when he kind of dips down when someone's coming forward and counters past him. Very good counter fighter. You know, the Charles Oliveira bit I was talking about, maybe you wouldn't think, and maybe that would go against him being a counter fighter, but he does both really. You know, he's a real dynamo on the feet, and really, really, really good. And I just wonder which is going to be applicable in this fight, like which is he going to want to do, like, because you look at Jason Jackson, and you know Jason likes to, again, like, a little bit like Leon Edwards, he likes to go forward in a methodical, jab you up, hit you up. He's not like rushing forward or running forward or anything like that. So the question is, one, will Kuramagomedov want to stop that and rush him backwards and rush forward and land his big shots, or will he want Jason Jackson to come onto him and he'll try to land the counters to Jason's jabs and his backhands that are coming behind him? That's the question. And to be honest, I'm not entirely sure which. I think a bit of both may be applicable. And I was talking about Paul Hughes, while thinking about the Paul Hughes fight. A bit of both is often a good way to do it in fights like this. So very, very interesting. Very interesting fight. I'm really not sure who's going to win this fight. I'm looking forward. I'm recording this a little bit earlier to seeing the betting odds and seeing who is the favourite coming into this, because Jackson has fought and beat a significantly higher level of fighter than Kuramagomedov, but Kuramagomedov, his level looks like it could be higher than most people in the world. He looks that good, and just because you haven't fought, you know, loads of unbelievable fighters, and he's fought some good fighters, make no mistake about it, doesn't mean you're not a great fighter. So we'll see how it works out. I cannot look at the Jason Jackson Amosov fight and not pick him coming into this fight. That's it. Now, maybe Kuramagomedov turns out to be a better fighter than Amosov and Jackson, and honestly, I would not be one bit surprised if he did, because he's unbelievably impressive. But Jackson did it against one of the best fighters in the world, destroyed him fighting that way. I don't think it'll be a destruction here, but I like to give my picks. Everyone likes when I give my picks, so I'm going to go for Jason Jackson to win this one, and I'd say he'll probably win a decision if he does win it. So let's move on. Let's talk about the co-main event. Paul Hughes making his debut against Bobby King, and it's massive, obviously big news. Paul Hughes made the decision to go to the PFL, and he ends up in Bellator, but this is in Irish MMA circles something that's been talked about for a very, very long time. You know, obviously, I did an interview with Paul, I don't know, about a year ago at this stage, and he had offers from the UFC at that time, and, you know, injuries and visas and stuff curtailed him from happening. Went back and he fought in Cage Warriors a couple of times, and his stock just rose and rose and rose, obviously with people like myself talking about him as well. And, you know, I had Luke Thomas on here, and we were talking about him, and everyone started to know Paul Hughes. And, you know, a fighter like that becomes in demand, and he got this big offer from PFL and Bellator. You know, there was apparently an offer as well from the UFC, but we know what the UFC do. They lowball everyone. He decided to go for the money and take it. And could you begrudge him? Not at all. His big co-main event fight here, would that have happened in the UFC? You know, the UFC might not be another 10 years before they come back to Ireland. Who knows? Although hopefully not. But and, you know, he's been promised to get into the tournament for next year as well. So absolutely, or the season as they call it. So absolutely massive for Paul Hughes. Massive. But before that, you know, Bobby King. And I'll be honest with you here, I I'd seen Bobby King fight a few times before. I heard this fight announced, and I was like, all right, a good test for Paul Hughes, but it shouldn't be too bad. So that news, I don't know, how long ago was that? Maybe 2 months ago, something like that. And then, right, yesterday or the day before, I was sitting down, and I better do my research now for the card, and I watched a bit of Bobby King, and I said to myself, this is not a walkover at all. This is by no means a walkover for Paul Hughes. Now, look, Paul Hughes could go out and knock him out in 20 seconds or whatever. That could happen in any fight. Conor McGregor did Jose Aldo. He's by no means a walkover either. Do you get me? And I'm not compared to Bobby King to Jose Aldo, just to put it that way. But Bobby King is a good fighter. And when he fights a little bit like Paul Hughes, he's exciting and rushes forward and lands big shots. He's 8 wins. 8 wins inside the distance out of 12 wins in his career. He's lost a few close decisions as well in his career. His last 2 in a row have been close enough decision. Well, maybe not close enough, but decision losses. One of them to Ghazi Razabov, who's very good. He also lost a decision to Alexander Chabli. Paul Hughes hasn't fought near that level of fighter. There's no doubt about it. He's beaten the likes of Steven Seiler and Nick Newell and Coyote Diggs as well. So he's been in there with some very, very, very good guys. And you look at his game, and I went back, funny enough, and I watched that Seiler fight. It was actually from 2021, so it's a few years ago now at this stage, but he looked I'll say it again, he looked a bit like Paul Hughes in that fight, and he's 40 years of age now. Is also, last 2 in a row. Maybe he isn't the same fighter he once was, but to watch some of his recent fights, he's a big, strong guy, hits hard, is dynamic on the feet, fast with his hands. No joke on the ground as well. He's good defensive wrestling. Everyone, if you fight for that long, you're going to get taken down and stuff. But, he's absolutely no joke. Absolutely no joke, Bobby King. So I wanted to start off by saying that. Now, you look at the other side of it then, and Paul Hughes, there's a reason why people talk about him as one of the top prospects on planet Earth, 11-1. Again, 8 finishes, 3 decisions. His one loss was via decision to Jordan Vucinic. That was in 2020. In 2022, he beat Jordan Vucinic in one of the biggest beatdowns ever seen in cage wars. I think if you look at a picture of Jordan Vucinic after that fight, his face was like it was in a blender, an absolute destruction. He beat Morgan Charrier as well before that, as we all know from the UFC, and he's won 2 fights since he's moved up to lightweight in October 2023 and April 2024 against Jan Q-Hagens and Fabiano Silva, who was, I believe, like his 3rd or 4th opponent of that week, because people kept pulling out non-stop. So, he's been on an absolutely great run. I think if you look at Paul Hughes and you see him fight a few times, like I was at his very first fight in 2017 when he fought Adam Gustab, and from that moment you knew there was something special afoot here. Like, he went all out and threw those big knockout blows non-stop. Broken hands then. He was out for a couple of years. He came back. He won a couple of fights by wrestling and looked really good. He was fighting Cage Conflict. They gave him a fight in Cage Warriors. He went back to Cage Conflict. I remember talking to Paul before Cage Warriors 110, and he was looking to get an opportunity on the card, and then I was talking to Graham Boylan a couple of weeks later, and it's like, Jesus, just I can't do it at the time. So like, everyone would be desperate to have Paul Hughes at the moment, and now they're kind of like, he's like, listen, Paul, you're not going to be on this card, we'll be on the next one type of thing. So it's, he's been fighting for his place for a very, very long time, and I think that's only beneficial. It gives you a good mindset. It gives you the ability to fight through setbacks and everything like that, and he has that with the broken hands and all that. The struggle to get into Cage Warriors and then the struggle to get out of Cage Warriors. Let's put it that way. But a massive, massive evening here for Paul Hughes. Look, he can do it all. He's big high kicks, good wrestling. I actually think maybe wrestling Bobby King might be a good way to go here, because look, he can strike with Bobby, and I'd pick him to win a fight on the feet with Bobby. But if Bobby's striking is good, like, why'd you put yourself in that position to want to go toe-to-toe with a guy like that? Not necessarily, want to go toe-to-toe. I'm sure he'll want to pick him apart if the fight is on the feet, but I think he might have an advantage on the ground, especially, if he can initiate it and get the takedown and fight there. And this is a fight you have to win. This isn't the fight where you have to look great or anything. Look, you've earned your contract already. You've earned the spot next year already. All you can do here is lose it. So I'm not saying to go out and, decision him 29, 20, or 30, 27 or anything like that. But I think it might be a smart play here. Now, like, that's what MMA is all about. It's not boxing. It's not kickboxing. This is mixed martial arts. Go out and do what you need to do now. Maybe Paul is like, well, what I need to do is go out and lay my hands on him and I'll knock him out. And I actually agree. I think he probably will. But I would mind seeing an extra bit from Paul because I know he can do it. And he's very confident, as I am in him, in all areas. He's a very well-rounded, very good fighter. But I think it could be a real fun fight if it is on the feed. I think the speed for Paul will be the difference there. I think his defensive ability will be the difference there as well. And I'm really looking forward to it. It's a good co-main event. And I think it's good matchmaking as well. A shout out to whoever, is it Dan Hardy or whoever it is, maybe matchmaking these, maybe Jude Samuel. But very good match. I'm looking forward to seeing that. Then we've Arlene Blencowe against Sinead Kavanagh. Went back and watched that fight. If you look up what card was it, Bellator 182, I believe. The whole card is on. It is indeed. Is on YouTube. So an interesting first fight. Sinead Kavanagh usually loves to fight off of the back foot and pick people off, but in that fight she had a little bit of a problem because Arlene was very good at kind of countering her back foot boxing, and then Sinead had to come forward a little bit, and she started winning the fight when she did come forward and hitting Arlene very well. And it went to a very, very, very close decision, and Sinead ended up losing it. I think a lot of people at the time thought Sinead won it again. Very, very, very close. And I think this will probably be another close fight again. Like Sinead, she lost a close split decision to Sarah Collins, who looks to be the next big thing in that division. So Sinead is still thereabouts. She beat Jenny Harding, beat Leah McCourt before that, and she'd won 2 fights before fighting Cyborg as well. So she's definitely the form woman in that division before the Sarah Collins setback, and if she can win this again, I think she'll kind of turn things around. Blencowe lost to McMahon after going to a great decision with Cyborg in 2022, and she'd won a couple before that as well. So they're at very similar points in their career. 41 years of age versus 38 years of age. Sinead Kavanagh, I suppose, has the advantage there, but I don't see this being massively different to the first fight. I think Sinead, if she looks back on that first fight, will realise what she needs to do to win, because I think at all times in that fight, I think Sinead did dominate where the fight was fought. Now, she didn't always win where the fight was fought. Arlene was winning it at times, but Sinead could manipulate that. If she wants to fight off the back foot, she did. If she wants to fight going forward, she did. She needs to use that. And I think if she goes forward against Arlene, picks the shots going forward, and when you're not going forward, when you're on the back foot, very defensive, just stay away from her, don't throw as many shots and don't let her counter you. Now, maybe Arlene isn't fast as she once was, and if she isn't, maybe Sinead can open up a little bit more there, or just have the fight fought a little bit more there, and it could be good for her. So yeah, I'm definitely picking Sinead to win this fight. I think watching that first fight, it's easier for her to make the adjustments than it is for Arlene. Now, Arlene's been in there with her before, and they both have that advantage, I suppose, of having fought each other before and knowing what they feel like. So I'm very interested to see how it goes, and I think there was talks of Cyborg fighting Pacheco, there was talks of Leah McCord fighting Pacheco. Whatever happens there, I think the winner of this, it could be next in line. Sarah Collins obviously there as well, but Sinead with that win over Leah McCord, if she was to win here, it'd put her in prime position really, because especially if Leah was to win that fight, that could be a massive main event in Ireland in the next year or so. So very, very interesting, a big fight there as well. A middleweight contender fight in Norbert Novenyi Jr. against Dalton Rosta. I love this fight. If anyone has listened to some of my shows over the last while, they'll know I'm big on Norbert Novenyi Jr. In my opinion, he's the best prospect on planet Earth at 7-0, 24 years of age. He hasn't had it all his way over the last while. He had 3 years out of the cage there between 2020 and 2023, well, 2.5 years-ish. Injuries and every sort of thing happened to him. First time I heard about, well, I saw him before that, but the first time I really looked into him was in 2019 for the Will Flory fight. Obviously, Will here from Ireland. And, you'd have the little bit of bias, going into the fight. And then I watched his fights before that, and I was like, oh my God, Will. this is not this is not going to end well. Like, this is a big issues here, and like, Will was more experienced, and Will's a very good fighter. He's an octagon now, and he managed to get the decision. He did a great job, but it was a real shellacking. Like, Norbert Novenyi is a beast. Like, his father, an Olympic gold medalist at in wrestling, and a gold medalist, or a world champion kickboxer as well. And, you know, he's a similar sort of guy. He's fighting in shoot fighters. He fights like MVP, but he can wrestle unbelievably. I don't know if you heard Daniel Cormier talking about him recently. But he came to AKA and was wrestling guys around the place. This guy is a beast. It's just about all putting it together. I haven't seen him fully putting it together yet. Like, I've seen bits and pieces of wrestling earlier in his career. I've seen it's been all striking recently. Obviously, his last 2 fights, first round knockouts, last 3 fights even. Although he's a submission of a triangle in there as well. But that was back in his fight in 2020. So I just want to see him putting it together a little bit. Now he's fighting Dalton Rosta here. Who's a very good wrestler, obviously fighting out of American Top Team. Lost his last fight to Aaron Jeffrey. He's not nowhere near the striker that Norbert Novenyi is. He has, you know, a right hand, and he has a bit of a jab and a leg kick, but Norbert's an unbelievably well-rounded guy, especially with his striking, you know, well-rounded, especially with his striking, but varied with his striking, let's put it that way. Look, the way Dalton Rosta wins this fight is to take him down and get him off him. And that's the only way he wins this fight. There's no doubt about it. Now, maybe he could catch him with a big right hand or something, but unlikely, I would say. Yeah, if he doesn't do that, Norbert Novenyi will win this fight and probably win it well. And I think he will. I think he'll be able to stop the takedown. Maybe even I could see Norbert making a point of this, maybe getting a takedown of his own. But I think he'll beat up Dalton on the feet, land a big shot, and end up finishing this. So really, really looking forward to that one. There's a whole lot of fights in the middle of this card in Kasumov versus Mateos. Like, good prospects at bantamweight. Kasan Magomedsharipov, who's fought a lot in Ireland over the last while, fighting Taylor Madison again. Not the step up that I think he would have wanted. Very interesting fight between Simone Powell and Adel Arami. Kamadinov, 15-0, is fighting Alves de Silva at 12-3. So there's a lot of, you know, people maybe you would expect to see on the PFL European series or something maybe next year, or, you know, some of the best prospects from around. Look at Francesco Nuzzi. He was on it last year. He's on this card as well, fighting Ota. And I think it's very smart as well. They put Elena Kolesnik against Sarah Collins on this. Obviously, with the Sinead Kavanagh Blencowe fight now, you know, Sarah Collins obviously has the win over Sinead Kavanagh, and, you know, if she was to lose, maybe, and Sinead was to lose, they could put that back together. Or if Sinead was to win, maybe, or, you know, if Blencowe was to win, they could put that together as well. But I think it's smart to have that fight on it. And we have Michelle Montague against Kalina Sobek as well. But the 3 remaining Irish on it, then we have Nathan Kelly and Nate Kelly. Nathan Kelly's taking on Jose Sanchez. I'll just talk about that quickly first. Nathan Kelly has had a great run over the last fight. It's very interesting here. He's like the second or third fight from the bottom here. He headlined the card the last time the PFL came here, and he did a great job. Drew a lot of people, so I'm very surprised with that. Now, maybe these cards are subject to change. Obviously, he might be higher up after that, but like 2 first-round finishes in his last 2, 1 knockout, 1 submission. Looked very, very, very good in his time in the PFL. You know, he's 5-0 now in the PFL through the Challenger Series and Europe and all of that. And you'd have to think, like, his record is looking better and better all the time. You know, he lost his first 2 fights and then has gone on a 10-fight run here, looking very good. His opponent, Jose Sanchez, then 13-2, fighting out of Spain, 8 finishes in his record. Haven't been able to catch a whole lot of him, but I was at his fight between himself and Kasan Magomedsharipov, and Kasan kind of made easy work of him on that night. But he is a dangerous guy, catches lots of submissions. You think for Nathan Kelly, you know, to stay away from that. You know, I think if he does get a takedown, which he absolutely can, stay very strong on top and dominate there. But I think if he can get the jab going, get his striking going, I think he can win the fight there as well. So an interesting one for Nathan Kelly. Although, you'd expect that to be maybe a little bit higher up. And then you've the young Nate Kelly against Paul Nolan. Very interesting as well for young Nate, obviously fighting as an amateur. He said he wants a few more before going pro, so a nice showcase for him as well, and for Paul Nolan. A lot of people giving out about Nathan Kelly, and a lot of the amateurs in Ireland want to fight him because he's getting displacement, and they're like, oh, they're giving him easy matchups, why not give him the best amateur in the country? But Nate is only young, and I've no problem with this. As John Kavanagh always says, you once you get to the pros, you can you have your record to hold, you have money to gain and all. It's all about getting ready until you get to there, and this is getting him ready. Now, maybe a step up in the next couple of fights, absolutely, but I think a lot of people are giving out about this. But anyway, we've a fight in between Dara Kelly and Matthias Porin. Again, Matthias, not a whole lot of tape on him. The one bit of tape I did find was very interesting. He's not a bad fighter at all, a very hard hitter. All these 7 wins have been inside the distance. He lost his last fight now, all right, to Kenny Lopez. But watching one of his recent fights, and he landed it. It was kind of a break, and he landed a big right hand, absolutely just toppled his opponent over and finished him on the ground after that. If you're Dara Kelly, Dara he's 5-0, 26 years of age, and he's looked great in some of his fights, and in others he's looked very green. But he's, as I said, young in his career as well in age. And Dara Kelly is one of those guys, you look at him and he passes the eye test. Like, he's muscular and strong and fast, a really good athlete. And that's the sort of guy that you don't mind he's green. You don't mind even maybe if he takes a loss early in his career. A guy like that is just improvement after improvement after improvement, and he'll get to somewhere that other people who aren't as good at athlete might never get to. So he's fighting out of Donegal as well in Moville. So I'm very interested in seeing that. As I said, don't know a whole lot about Matthias Porin, but I'm sure Dara and John Kavanagh and those will have gotten a bit of tape on him and will be well prepared for it. So, an interesting night of fights. It's a pity just the Queally factor, the Gallagher factor, the Kieran Clark factor, Kieran Clark even factor is kind of missing out of there. It would have been great to have that, but I don't. Hopefully the next time to have it, and we get the stacking of the event like that. But either way, a very good card. Looking forward to seeing it, and looking forward to tuning in on June 22nd, as you all should as well. All right, I will leave it there. Thank you very much for tuning in. My name is Sheehan for Sherdog.com, and I'll see you all next time.